Hey there, triathlete. Welcome to the Triathlete Mindset Podcast, where we explore effective training mindsets, life's challenges, and provide you with real-life strategies to help you become a stronger triathlete. Here is your host, Coach Morgon, the People's Coach.
Hey, Kevin, what's up, man? Hey, everybody, we got Kevin here, and he is about to rock your world with some stories of a lifetime. And I know that this is going to be exciting because I'm excited. You can't tell it that I'm excited. And I really am ecstatic that this is going to be like another episode of this dream come true, right? And we're going to talk about failures today. And I can tell you some stories on my end about how I failed to get to this point to be even able to fathom that I could have a podcast or be on Zoom or talking to somebody awesome like Kevin. You know what I mean? So Kevin, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, Morgan, those are big, kind words from you. I appreciate it. I am Kevin Elmore. Been doing triathlon for about 9 years now. So I started in 2012 on my 50th birthday. Started out trying to lose weight. I basically been an athlete my entire life, but I got a little sedentary as I was raising my kids. So I wanted to lose weight before my 50th birthday. So I bought a bike and started riding. I met a guy named Mark Monet, which is a mutual friend.
Yes, sir.
He's been in triathlon for years and years. And he invited me to go running and get in the pool, and the rest is history. Now, let's see, I've been on Team USA for probably 6-7 years straight, competing in duathlon and aquathlon. And I'm a USA level 1, USA triathlon level 1 coach. And also in my civilian life, a captain at American Airlines.
Lies. I love it, bro. Yeah. Bro, I love American. You know why I love American? Because they were like, all active duty members, please.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I was a Navy pilot, and
yes, sir.
So I look out for my military brethren. Anytime I see somebody in the military, if I got a seat up front, I ask the flight attendants to put them up front.
I need to fly with you. I mean, I can't afford first class, so anytime I can get up there, I've been brought up there twice, but when it comes down to, I get a free adult beverage.
There you go. And now with COVID, that's the only way you're going to get one is sitting in first.
Really?
Right. Yeah. They stopped that. Yeah.
Wow, bro. Like, yeah, man, it's crazy times. We both know that. I know you know it. You're a pilot of airplanes, and that whole world in general has been affected. And it's almost like, was it year? How many years ago was when we had the issue with all the recession before, and the airlines were they really struggled, right? And some airlines, small ones, kind of failed.
And bankruptcy. All three of the major carriers went bankrupt at some point between 2003 and 2008.
Yep, I remember that, man. And it's just another hit, right? And it's a really good transition into what we talk about failures, right? Because how do you bounce back from them? How do you keep moving forward? Are you prepared for them to happen again? Right. Because these airlines, as we know, or anything else that we do, like the first time it happened to you, it ain't really your fault. But the second time, right, you should know better. Like, are you prepared? Have you taken precautions to deal with that? And so what I want to know is, like, what failures in your life, like what's that big one that stands out to you most in your civilian life, as we would call it, not as an athlete, even though we know they kind of like interlock. What stands out to you as being the most life-changing experience?
Right. So for me, my dream as a child was to become a pilot, an aviator, and to get to that point, obviously you have to do good in school. You have to, listen to what people tell you, mind your authority, all that stuff. And I knew, how to get there. I had a mentor to help me get accepted into college, and and get into the ROTC program. But the first biggest failure for me was not taking care of business in school. And my parents warned me, if I went to Auburn with what ended up being, he was my friend in middle school and high school. My parents warned me. They said, hey, don't get there and act a fool, because you have three options in life. And this is what they would tell me this before I even got to high school. When you turn 18, you have three choices, and none of them involve staying at home. The first one is you join the military.
Yeah.
Second one is you can work. And the third one is you can go to school. So those were my three choices.
They didn't even let you stay at home if you went to school?
They said if I went to a local school, I could stay at home. That was
okay. I was about to say, man, he was like, get out.
Get up out of here, right? But I wanted to go away to school anyway. So that's kind of why they said none of them involve staying at home.
Right.
So anyway, I ended up at Auburn. I went to South Carolina for 1 year, and then I transferred to Auburn because that's where my buddy was. My parents warned me. They said, don't get there and act up. So what did I do? I got there, and, partying became the
part of the curriculum.
Party, yeah, that became part of the curriculum. Bo Jackson and Charles Barkley were there when I was going to school, and going to football games and basketball games. That was kind of my lifestyle. So unfortunately, when it came to selecting for what you wanted to do in the service, either submarine, surface warfare, or aviation, and of course aviation was what I wanted, I didn't have the grades.
Yeah.
So, I shouldn't have been, because I knew what I had done prior to.
Did it to yourself,
but,
yeah.
Man, I was devastated, Morgan. My goal, my dream was no longer available to me. So that's where, when you fail in life, how you respond defines you. And I had, fortunately, my parents were amazing, and I was surrounded around good people,
right,
who supported me and lifted me up. I remember, at graduation, my dad brought a pair of gold wings, and he said, "This is still your goal. Don't deviate from it. You've already deviated, but don't stray further. This is still your goal." So he pinned those wings on me at my graduation and said, "This is still the path."
It's like they tell you in triathlon, like it's still possible. Like that's what he said. Anything is possible. Like you
Anything.
Still have it. Yeah,
that's right. So I did. I went and I served. I went to Surface Warfare School down in San Diego. Served on the USS Enterprise for a year and a half.
With Captain Kirk?
Captain Skip Luschner. And I tell you what, the most difficult man in the world I've ever worked for. It was hardest job I've ever done in my life. I would never. The surface warfare Navy is a whole different ballgame. But I learned a lot of lessons, and I learned, if I was fortunate enough to transition from surface warfare back or get into aviation, there was no way in heck anybody was going to stand in my way, or I was going to, put me in a position to return back to that, because that's not where I wanted to be.
So you were a pilot then, right? As you joined, you were a naval pilot, right? And so
no. So and the way it works in ROTC is you graduate from college in the morning, and then you go and you get your commission as an officer in the afternoon. And then what they do is they send you to either submarine aviation or surface warfare. So since I didn't get aviation, I had to go to surface warfare school, which was a struggle because I didn't want to be there. And it was hard. It's 16 weeks of you're hitting the books, you're taking tests, 2 tests a week. It was tough. And,
you already on a track where you say, I want to go do this, but I've already done some things now. And I know how the military works, right? Yeah. They put you in an area in that where you really don't want to be. So, most people that I've seen and that I meet, right? When you take an individual and put them in an environment that they don't want to be in, it's really less likely for them to actually come out on top because they're blaming everybody else for some things that are probably actually they got themselves there, right? And then you have to grind at this school that's a lot harder, and you don't even want to do it, right? And what was on your mind? What were you thinking?
I was angry. I was frustrated because I didn't. I took ownership of it. That's the one thing I would say is in failure is. When you fail, you have to own it. You have to say, okay, I am the one that put myself in this position. You can't point the finger and say, the man did it to me. In my case, it just, I guess there's some situations where outside influences affect your performance or what you're doing, but this was all on me. So I had to chew it up. I had to grind, and I had to do everything I could to graduate from surface warfare school. Once I got to the ship, then I started putting things in place so that I could perform well enough to put in my package, my letter for transition into aviation. And that was my focus from day one when I got there was, okay, I can't just be a regular surface warfare officer. And this from being a brown-skinned man in this country. Yeah. You have to be 10 times better. So I worked my fingers to the bone, thanks to a really good chief who showed me the ropes. But I worked my ass off. If I'm sorry.
But no, it's okay. No, whatever you want on here. People listening, if his kids on here, it should be. You tell your parents you're on here if you listen to this episode. But it's great that you had that moment where it's that proverbial the shake that you gave yourself, right? You knew, and it seemed like you said, okay, now I need to grind, and it's a lesson in that. It's a lesson. It's like if you do it right the first time, right?
Right.
If there are certain things that are within your control, right? When we talk about training, we're talking about race day, right? You can't be about my nutrition with South.
Right.
Did you do
the
homework, right? Did you put in the work, right? And you have to be able to take the ownership of that. So
that's my biggest fear in a race. I'm not necessarily worried about my performance. I worry more about, did I do the homework? Did I put in the work? I remember in 2016, standing on the start line in Cozumel at the ITU Grand Final at the World Championships in aquathlon. And I'm standing there, and I was just shaking. Buddy of mine said, "Hey man, you all right?" And I just started crying because I was like,
"Oh man,
I don't know if I belong here." You're looking at people from all country, Spain, from Australia. Everybody's fit and lean, and you're standing there going, "What am I doing here?" And I wondered. I didn't know if I had put in the work that was my first world championship. So I didn't know if I had put in the work to be worthy of standing on that start line at the world championship. So that's, I was worried that I didn't put in the work.
But did you? How did it go?
I did. I put in the work. I think if I remember correctly, I finished like, I don't know, 35th or something like that out of over 75, 80 athletes, something like that.
That's still good, man. And then that's the key, right? And
Right.
we all have those moments, right?
Right.
And there's still, this is another good lesson, is like, you still put in the work and you still question it, right? And it just shows that you're human, right? You've done some amazing things. You fly airplanes for a living, you fly airplanes for our nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been to school, you have the work, right? You said the brown skinned man, like, we got to grind, right? We have to grind, and the expectations of where they think we've came from kind of follow us in, and instead accepting us for who we are, right? And you fight through so many things,
right?
And you question your ability to show up even though you're there. And it happens to everyone. It happens to me. It's going to happen to you again. It's going to happen to me again. And I know that, you, as a coach, right? How do you help an athlete out with that, right? When they've like literally, they go out there and they felt that they have done everything, and we'll go two scenarios, right? It's that one that's done everything, and the other one that ain't done what they thought they did, right? We know we both know those people. But let's talk about the ones that they felt that they have put in the work, but it didn't happen for them, and they lose their marbles. Right. And they start to go in a real dark place. How do you work through that with them?
Right. So basically you have to, my mom, it's an old cliche, you have to turn lemons into lemonade. You have to extract, you have to extract the positive from the negative. And you have to focus more on that, I think, than the negative. Now, of course, if somebody is going into an event where they felt like they put in the work, but then they show up, and realistically they realize, or they should have realized that, oh, snap, that wasn't quite what I needed to be doing to be where I wanted to be.
Right.
So I think the way you do it is you just tell that person, hey, this is where you were and this is where you are now. And you've improved dramatically from that point. If you want to take it to the next level, if you want to achieve, this particular goal, then we're going to have to kick it up, another level.
Right.
But don't dismiss the fact that you put in all this work and you still were able to accomplish this. I mean, you show them where they were and say, if you would have entered this race where you were, you probably wouldn't even have finished. Now you finished. Okay, so let's build from there. Let's see where we could go from there. And that would be my approach. That's the way I would.
And I think that's a lesson. There's power in failure. There's power in, like, you think you should succeed at everything that you work your butt off to achieve.
Right.
But would you appreciate it when you actually achieve the goal?
Right.
Like that's the whole point of triathlon. It's, anything is possible. Believe it's possible. Work through it. Work your butt off. Like that work possibilities means that there are possibilities that you may not succeed.
Right.
That's simple. We don't want to accept that.
Yeah. Let's go back to college. My college roommate, he got to Auburn on a Navy ROTC scholarship.
Okay.
I went to South Carolina and I had transferred to Auburn. So when we started partying and the grades went south, we both got put on probation. I knew academic probation. I knew that failing out of school was not an option because I couldn't go home.
So, we know that part.
Right. So that's when I started realizing, okay, I need to really, my parents told me, but I didn't pick it up then. But now I've been put on academic probation by the school. Now it's time to pick yourself up and start moving forward. Unfortunate for my roommate, he didn't make it. So he failed out. So he went home. His parents got a moving van, came down to Auburn, and packed him up and moved him back to Maryland. That wasn't an option for me, Morgan. The day he was moving out, I was talking to my dad, and he goes, I hope you understand we're not going to be coming down there with a moving van. So that was a wake-up call for me to get my stuff together, and I had to work. I had to dig myself. I was in a hole, and I had to dig myself out. But that's just an example of, you have to recognize when things are not going right, and you have to do something about it. You can't point the finger. You can't expect things to magically work themselves out. You gotta put in work.
Yeah.
You gotta put in work.
I think the big piece of that, is like you in many cases in your story, that when you talked to me, right, you talked about basically how the universe kept giving you second chances, right?
Right.
And I think what we need to understand is it's okay to give ourselves second chances, like third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances, right? As long as you're making forward movement. Like you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, right? But I think Les Brown says this, a great motivational speaker. He said, when you fall down, make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, right? And that's the key, because no matter who you deal with, life is not going to be perfect, right? The circumstances are not going to be set the way you want, because if it was, that if there was all good and no evil, you wouldn't appreciate the good. And we have that every day with that people that have been given things that have never really seen a lot of hardship. They have this privilege about them, and when the shit hits the fan, guess what? They freak out. Right. You don't know what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say, I come up and struggle, and 23 years in the military, coming from the ghetto, I'm doing what I'm doing. Even as an athlete, I ain't fast. I'm not this high performance dude, right? So I have failures and things as well too. But people are like, so what do you do, Morgan? I find a way. Like, I don't wallow in it. I don't get stuck in it, right? I take it and it's like, okay, I learn from it, right? I can tell you how many times I failed to attempt to think about a podcast or how to do it, and I got stuck. Right. Or somebody told me, no, don't do it that way, or that doesn't sound right. Even from my first podcast to this one, I've learned something. Right. And that's the key, right? And so as we move forward, what I would ask you to do, as we'll be wrapping it up here, there are people listening to you. And I'm going to just jump out on a ledge and say that everyone listening and watching has failed at some point in their life. But there's a select few within that group that are stuck in it. They're stuck in it and they're going, I'm the victim. What would you tell them to get them unstuck?
Man, that's tough, because when somebody feels victimized, you can't throw that out the window. You can't say, no, you haven't, So you have to do some soul searching. You have to kind of research the situation and figure out why that person feels like they were a victim, why the system failed them, or why what they were doing, they were working out 10 times a week, and they couldn't lose the weight, or they couldn't qualify for Kona, or whatever. You have to dig into it and find out the whys, what happened. And then once you start to delve in and figure out what happened, why it happened, then you start the building process. Well, could we have done it different? Could we have changed our approach to the training? Could we could we stretch it out, instead of working, doing 10 workouts a week, can we do 8 workouts a week at a higher level? Figure out a different way to approach how they're going about their business in a way that makes them feel good about themselves. I think that's the other thing is, especially in sport, if you're not having fun doing it, if it doesn't feel right, if it feels more like work than gratifying experiences like it should be, then maybe you're in it for the wrong reason. And maybe you have to kind of reevaluate the why you're doing it.
Yeah. I think that's a really big message. It comes down to like you said, looking at what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you got there. Oh, can you do something else? Right? We so quickly say, "Oh my God, I just did that." Okay, well now you grieve, handle it. Like go, figure out like what are you feeling? What are you going through? Mm-hmm. Take that step back, look at it, evaluate it. Like you said, like okay, like what can I do differently? Like control what you can control. That's what I would tell the people listening. Right. Control what you can control. And what you can control is like how it happens next time, right? How something similar may approach you the same way or a different way. And you can be more prepared to react differently. Right. That's the key, right? It's being able to stop, think, regroup, set a plan, and then move forward.
Another thing I would say, and you set a plan just made me think of this. And oftentimes in my life, after failure, what helps me is if you can visualize it. I wouldn't call it a failure because when you shoot for the stars and you fall short, you still end up on top, right? Right. So another thing that when I was in Japan, I used to fly with a guy named Mark Kelly, who, if the name sounds familiar, it should. He was an astronaut. He had a twin brother that was an astronaut. And now he's the new senator, one of the new senators in Arizona. Anyway, Mark and I were good friends, and he was interested in becoming an astronaut. And so he basically talked me into it. And I said, yeah, that'd be really cool. Anyway, I put in all my paperwork and applied to become an astronaut, and I did get accepted into it. But that whole time into the process, like I visualized, what it would take to get to that step. And in that visualization, some things were just, here's another thing. You have to be reasonable in your goal setting. Like you have to set goals that are attainable. And you can do that with a mentor, a coach, somebody that knows how to get to that path. And the things that I was visualizing and the things that I need to do, which was go to graduate school, which I'd already done, right. And then go to test pilot school, and then go back to graduate school to get a mechanical engineering degree and a master's degree. I had 2 kids at that time. That was, for me, a lofty goal. And at a certain point, I realized that might not be attainable for me. But what it did do was all the things that I was doing to get in line for that astronaut program put me in line to become in charge of my own squadron in the Navy. So that, I fell short, but I still ended up in a good space.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, visualizing, how you're just from race day. When you go into a big race, you have to think about every single phase. Getting up in the morning, getting all your things prepared, getting to that start line, your nutrition, how you're going to run, how you're going to do that swim, when you get out, the transition, every single thing, how you're going to get on the bike, what you're going to manage that wattage so that you can have some legs when you get on that run, all those things you have to see it. See it and know that you can accomplish it. You put in the work that you can do it.
That's all it is, man. But, I appreciate it, brother. This was a great conversation. I know we're going to get some great feedback from it, really learning about failure, moving through it, right? And shooting for the stars, right? You're still going to land on top. And I like that. And we appreciate you for coming, man, and talking to us. And hopefully, in the future, when this blows up, we can do this again and we can bring some more valuable stories back to the people out there. And if, you need anything from me, I'm always here. Appreciate you. Right. And guys, we're going to do this again. We're going to do this every 2 weeks. And I hope that you're sharing it and you liking it and whatever else, wherever you see it, just make sure everybody in the world can listen, man. You know what I mean?
This guy is doing good things. So
trying, brother.
Morgan, best of luck to you, man, with the rest of your podcast. You're doing great things, man. I really appreciate you, brother. Thanks you for inviting me.
Thank you, man. And until next time, guys, see ya. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Find Coach Morgan on social media and at www.morganlattimore.com. Check back every 2 weeks for new and insightful episodes. Until next time, remember, you are enough. You just have to believe it.